coming in to you tonight, something we call Flex. And my name is Dina Hall. I am here coming to you what looks like it's going to be every Wednesday. And I got a pretty good schedule lined up coming up through June and July. And we are talking about how we're adapting in these times from performing arts not being able to done in a traditional manner. And we are calling this Contemplating Performing Arts During Uncertain Times. And tonight I'm going to talk with my friend, Amy Putlock, who is a choral music teacher at Broughal Middle School here in Bethlehem. And I want to welcome Amy Putlock too. There we go. There she is. Very good. Let me hear you.
Hi.
There you are. All right. Got to get a little more volume on you. Let me see if that helps us. Say hi again.
Hi.
All right. All right. I'm just adjusting some levels. This is the kind of thing we do on the fly here. And I don't want to be too much louder than you. So you can hear me okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Cool. All right. So what we're talking about is how this pandemic and the fact that we were cut short very quickly back in March, and how all of our performing arts have had to happen or not happen in a unique way. So I'm going to ask, we're going to go back to March 8th, 9th, I think it was, somewhere around there when things sort of got a little crazy out there. So how was that for you?
March 13th. I just erased it from my chalkboard a couple of weeks ago.
You were March 13th, and that was when school closed?
Yeah, we had a regular school day, and I think it was 5 to 10 minutes after the students had left that we found out that we weren't going to be going back. At that point, we were under the impression it was going to be 2 weeks, but obviously extended a little longer than that.
Yeah. 2 weeks. Everybody was thinking 2 weeks. That was the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we sort of got stuck in that. Well, it's only going to be 2 weeks and we'll be back and we'll be able to do the things that we have to do. And then school closed, right? And you were in the middle of had you started your rehearsals for your spring musical?
Well, that day was particularly devastating because we had the Broughal Blues Jazz Festival planned for that evening. And pretty much the day before, we had to make the hard decision of canceling it after all of our supplies had been purchased, after we were completely ready for everything to go down. So that was a tough hit for us. And then that's the midst of our jazz season. We completely lost our competition season. The kids didn't get to go to any of the festivals. We had plans to take them to the music in the parks, and yeah, we didn't get to do any of it.
So you went home. And there was a certain amount of learning, right, that they were still able to do via internet?
Mm-hmm. So for those first 2 weeks, we operated as if it was 2 weeks worth of snow days. But after that, we were delivering lessons every week. Mm-hmm. There was nothing in terms of the choral or musical theater side of things, but in classroom music, we did still deliver instruction.
Okay, so let's start here with talk about the way that your teaching works. You have a full day, right? How many students do you see in a day, in a week?
I would say anywhere from 150 to 180, depending on class sizes, a day.
And that's a day. All right, and so primarily you're teaching choral music, right?
I teach classroom music during the day, and then I teach choral music before school, theater after school.
Oh, wow. And where you're teaching is in probably one of the most economically challenged areas of the city of Bethlehem. Is that fair to say, or?
I prefer to look at the strength side of Southside Bethlehem.
Sure, I do too. I'm just going towards the availability of internet access and technology and all of that in some of the homes, maybe? Is because I know for me, myself, had this happened when my, children were here just a few years ago, we couldn't have kept up with the availability of the technology that might have been necessary. It would have been difficult for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very challenging.
Yeah, we did struggle.
Yeah. Just because it requires, it kind of requires things that we don't ordinarily have in our homes, but we're expected to have available at school.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, that sort of becomes a big challenge for the whole family. Plus, you're teaching children who are at home with a whole family there. Yeah.
I think that served to be the bigger problem in the long run. There's a lot of distractions at home.
Yep.
And I mean, among other things, we're going through a global pandemic right now. That's a huge stressor for a lot of kids.
A huge stress. Yeah. And so learning academics is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain amount of, I know there's a certain amount of study, there's a certain amount of reading, but it's not necessarily, for lack of a better word, joyous.
Mm-hmm.
There's not
a lot different when it's asynchronous on top of it. So lessons would be put out on Monday mornings, and then we would make ourselves available, of course, but there's just something inherently different when you're not in the room.
When you're not in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to see if we have any comments. We have, okay, David Kresge's tuned in, and he says he's going to try to come up with some questions for us. Well, that would be very helpful, just because we want some input on this. We want to know what's going on out there, and how people are dealing with some of these things. Maybe some of your students might be watching, or they might have some input. Did you hear from them during the downtime? Not. Yeah, not necessarily lesson related.
Yeah, in both ways. I think they checked in on me as much as I was checking in on them. Yeah.
And I know that you're one to really invest your emotion and your energy and everything 200% in your students, and making sure that they're really getting the most that they possibly can out of all this. So I can see why they would do that as well. So you had that musical was, and basically all programs through the end of the year were canceled. So how did you get through the teaching aspect while they were home and you were in school, because you still had to get to the end of the year with lessons, right, and meet certain outcomes?
Mm-hmm. So we were fortunate to be able to work with the other music teachers across the district. So I was teamed up with my colleagues at East Hills, Richmond, and Northeast, and we collaborated on our weekly lessons so that all of the students across the district were getting the same instruction every week. And because all of us were working on it at the same time, we were able to do some really neat things.
And tell me about some of those really neat things.
Well, I'll tell you about my favorite one. So in case you're not aware, one of the current stars, I'm going to call her star, she absolutely is one, of Hamilton and the Ann Peggy Tour is a graduate of Freedom High School, Victoria Scovins. And she took some time out of her schedule to do a webinar with the middle school students across the district. So they got to ask questions to her and interact with her, so they can learn a little bit about what it's like to be a professional actress in theater.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the big ones that I enjoyed. We also did quarantine playlists where students shared what they were listening to throughout this whole shutdown that's helping them cope and inspiring them in some time of disconnectedness. So we built this playlist through Apple Music and Spotify that they could share with each other, and that was also really fun.
And so some of these things that you had happening with the collaborative work with some of the other teachers, I saw some of them pop up here and there. Are any of those on YouTube right now? Well, maybe that, but there was something where you, I don't know what app was used, but all of you teachers got together and you collaborated on a song performance. Is that on YouTube? Or is that just on Facebook?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, John put that together. Yeah.
So do you happen to know the name of it? Because I would love to be able to possibly share the screen right now If I
Sure.
can figure this out.
We did High Hopes. Oh gosh, I'm gonna get the band name wrong. I'm so sorry because I believe it's Panic at the Disco.
And
I should know this, and I don't.
and so apparently it is. And so, how do you think that whose channel might that live on? Do you know?
I don't. I know John shared it from his account, but I can't remember it. But he had basically orchestrated the whole thing. He sent out a Google form to all the teachers, asked us what instruments we played, and then he wrote it all out, sent us all the music. We practiced it. We recorded our videos, and over the course of a couple of weeks, he put the whole thing together.
I found it.
Yeah, it's super cute.
I did find it. I'm gonna see if I can share this. Hang on. We're hearing it, right?
I don't.
I wish I could get this to work properly. Ah, I'm sorry. I couldn't get it to work. Could you hear it?
Mm-mm.
You couldn't hear it? I could hear it on my end, but I couldn't get it to share the screen. I don't understand why. Yeah, sadly you can't. All right, I'm gonna keep working on that. Maybe because I could hear the volume in here, but they're telling me they can't. I'm getting Becky Kepner and Kristen they're both saying they can't hear it because it's really cool. I really want to be able to show that again. So I'm going to see if I can get that. In the meantime, we can talk about something else. Were there any other programs like that you were able to collaborate on? Did you have student involvement? There was a student who put something together, wasn't there?
Yeah, we did early on in the quarantine. We did a small virtual choir. We struggled a lot with turnout for that one. I learned very quickly that middle school students are a little bit nervous about recording just video and audio. Honestly, I felt uncomfortable doing it myself. It was really a lot for me. And I'm pretty shameless when it comes to stuff like that. So I had 6 students that came through and wanted to do it. So that was really fun. We did from the last scene of Stranger Things season 3, Never Ending Story. So we reenacted a little bit of that. And then after that, for the 8th grade moving up ceremony, and sort of where I hit my stride and how I kind of want to approach the fall this year, I used a cloud-based recording platform called Soundtrap with one of my 8th graders who's going on to high school next year. And collaborating with friends and him, we were able to make a cover of a song that he had selected for the 8th grade moving up ceremony. It was really beautiful.
And can you see the comments that I'm letting come up on the screen?
Yeah, I can
right
see
now.
Yes.
There's that one, and there's another one. We have a question from David.
Oh, yeah.
As far as performance, what are the options? Is it possible to do an outdoor socially distanced event?
Yeah, so the district has been working on some really excellent guidelines that are modeled mostly around what marching band would look like in terms of spacing and hand washing and all of that, checking in with students in the morning before they even enter the building to make sure they're not showing symptoms. So there is going to be a significant amount of safety measures put in place before we approach anything. As far as performance goes, and I am speaking as Amy Putlock, I am not speaking on behalf of BASD because we're still working through a whole lot right now, and I don't want to say something and have it go completely differently because it's very likely that it will. I'm operating from a place where I'm looking forward to be back in the classroom with my students in the fall, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make whatever that looks like be meaningful and useful. As far as performances go, the most important thing for me is student safety. So the comfort of their families, the comfort of students in those spaces. And I've been doing a lot of research, watching webinars with the Choral Directors Association. And a lot of what's being said right now is that the nature of choral music sort of turns people into super spreaders. I don't think it takes a whole lot of science to
Yeah.
navigate that reality. And the other problem is if you think you have a choir of 75 students, there needs to be 6 feet of distance between them, and or wearing masks. And wearing masks in this case, I wouldn't be comfortable having them 6 feet apart without masks. There's just so many things that are going to impede a traditional choral experience. And I think instead of stressing myself out trying to figure out a new way to recreate the choral experience, I want to take this as an opportunity to explore some other options on how I can allow my students to be musicians and how we can facilitate real creative, meaningful experiences. And that's why I'm taking a lot of what I learned from doing that virtual choir and working with Elijah. And I think this is a really good time to focus in on recording. As of last year, BASD went 1-to-1 in the middle school. So all of my students have a Chromebook, which means they all have access to Soundtrap. And I think it would be a really useful, I don't know if that's redundant, but a good use of time for us to focus on skills involving recording. Given what's going on in the world, in our country specifically right now, we always talk about how music is a good opportunity for self-expression in students. And while I'm not going to disagree that choral arts are not self-expression, I think that teaching students how to record something that is very much their own and not just a performance of somebody else's music would be a really great thing to do now. I would love to have their voices be elevated and heard. And I have all the tools to teach them how to record and create their own music. And then they can sort of take it from there, and I can help them refine the musical side of it, and they can utilize that knowledge to create something that's meaningful and beautiful and very much their own.
For sure. You said that they all have Chromebooks that they were able to take home. That's part of what I was talking about earlier, is that it's good that the school district has been able to allow them to have those and have the responsibility for those. And take them. Yeah. I know for myself, there's been an incredible amount of learning that I've had to do just to get to this point of talking to you right now, learning all of this new technology, new software. And even though you think it appears to be so very easy, but I dare say there are very few people, even in a professional music realm, people who are musicians. They're creators, but they're not tech people. And inevitably, every single one of them, them higher up the chain, they all have struggled with the tech side of all of this. So, and perhaps there's a way to integrative learning with, maybe I just made that word up, I don't know, but there are students who are really tech oriented, and there are students who are art oriented, and maybe that's a way to get them to work together. Is that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the software that I used, and I could see Becky has a really good question here too.
There you go. Good.
But it lends itself really well to collaboration. And in fact, that's kind of the purpose of a cloud-based recording platform, is that you're able to collaborate from a distance.
From a distance, yeah. So where's Becky's question, assuming Broughal will have periods of closure during the upcoming school year, do you think you'll be able to teach remotely your songwriting lesson?
I could say confidently that I know I can, because that's the only way I've taught it so far.
Oh, there you go.
Everything that Elijah and I did to create that song was done remotely on multiple ends too, because I also worked with my friend Matt, who is local in Bethlehem, but he had recorded the drum track remotely from a completely different location as well. So we had 4 collaborators on that track altogether, 5 collaborators too, all together on that track. And I was able to teach Elijah how to use that software through the software, because there's a video chat attached to it. Yeah. So we could type to each other, and then I can also see a live video stream of him singing while we were doing the recording. So he would record a phrase, he would listen back to it, he would assess himself. Another point I'd like to bring up about self-assessment. There we go. You don't get in the choral arts so easily the way that you do when you're doing recording. So there was a lot of other doors that were opening up in that I hadn't anticipated, that made it a really fun and really enlightening experience. So because of the chat feature, because of the video chat feature, it's very easy to teach from a distance. In fact, I think figuring out how to instruct when I'm in a classroom setting might be more of an obstacle because I'll have so many students to work with at once instead of just one at a time.
It's true. You're going to have to go back to that. I don't know, might not be so easy. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
there's a comment from Kristen. My daughter has used the new software. I don't know if I could figure it out, but she did with Ms. Putlock's help.
Yeah,
So there you go.
Yeah, it's pretty user friendly, and you can do a whole lot with it. And I understand that Kristen's daughter or daughters actually. I wonder if all of them are doing this right now, but they're doing some songwriting every day, and I know that he has been writing through that and has shared some stuff with me. It's pretty great.
Yes. Well, just to use Kristen's family as an example, there was a night that I was live streaming music here from home, and I created a percussion workshop because during this time, it seemed a very incredibly self-serving for me to just sit here in my house. And this is going back to late March, maybe April, to just sit here in my comfortable house and play songs and try to be happy. And things were really, really bad right here. I mean, this area has sort of got some levity, around us right now, just a little bit of levity. But at the time, it was terrible. And so in that time, I was trying to bring a family component, actually coming into people's homes, knowing and hoping that they were spending family time together. And I, created as a percussion workshop, and the entire Kristen's entire family went into the kitchen as I instructed and brought out all of the things that make noise. And Dad Dave was on the couch with a guitar. And so it was really cool. I saw a picture afterwards of them all. So families, if they have the means and they have, the relationships, they can probably do some of this on their own, like help even with songwriting and collaboration and all of that. And it takes me back to long, many hundreds of years ago when that's all we had was instruments at home. Mm-hmm. And our families to work with. Yeah. Yes. Kristen says that was so fun. Yeah, it sure looked it. So I don't want to lose where I was going next. So yeah, the choral music is really going to be a problem. I mean, even for any kind of indoor music performance in an intimate space or in a space where people are close together. We're going to be. We're going to
consider the audience too. There's
exactly, and consider the audience and consider how comfortable they may or may not be. So going into, let's see, we have no idea what's going to happen in September. So we really can't just talk about that too much. Do you have? You had we talked on the porch that one day when we were out here, and I know you had a lot of fire, which is good. We have to have that in order to, we just can't become despondent about this. We have to have some fortitude and figure out, where we're going to go next. So do you think most of this stuff is successful for you right now? You think you ended the school year on a very successful note?
I definitely learned a lot. Sure. But going forward, I would absolutely want to do things differently.
Yeah.
But at this point, we're all optimistic that we're going to go back and things are going to be as close to normal as they were. Mm-hmm. But I'm very much a realist as a choral director.
Yeah.
And a firm believer in science. So I want to make sure that everybody is absolutely safe. And I think as far as choral music goes, if we go back to normal, it's not going to take a whole lot for me to just readjust to what things were. It's what I've been doing for the past 10 years. I don't want to say that it's easy, but it's not going to be a huge adjustment for me. So I am choosing to spend my summer planning for something that's going to look a little different, because a part of the discussion we had was that we've been doing the same thing for so long and it's been really fun, but now we're almost being forced into this place where we have to try something new. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the struggle I have as a music teacher, that's been, I think, even bigger given the circumstances in our nation right now. I think it's important that we lean into this whole self-expression aspect of being musicians and music educators. And I'm almost a little relieved that there's not going to be as much pressure for me to curate a choral concert in a traditional format. And there might be a little bit more space for me to simply create a forum for my students' actual voices, not them speaking through an already established artist.
Yeah, that is a really, really wonderful way to look at that. They, I think right now when things are happening like this, their voices want to be heard. They want to, and it's just a matter of finding the proper way to express all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think when things are normal, sort of normal, because everybody experiences life differently.
Mm-hmm.
We just sort of go with, like you said, we're just expressing someone else's, and we're learning the performance aspect, but we're not necessarily learning the creating original concept, the original thought, yeah. Do you have any involvement with any of the instrumental music?
I help Adam out with the drum line, which is going to be happening pretty similarly to the way it always has been, just with some safety precautions put in place.
Do you think that that's, I'm not want you to speak for someone else, but do you think that's something that's been successful in this sort of format in an online situation?
In terms of teaching instrumental music?
I mean, I know people can teach one-on-one instrumental music. I know they're doing that. I'm have been through that myself, but as a, like, say, a band.
Yeah. I wonder if he's here right now, because if he types some stuff about what he's been doing, I have a limited perspective from things that we've discussed. I know he's utilizing Smart Music to help I don't know if you're familiar with that software, but it listens to you play and gives feedback that way. So I know he's been doing things like that. I've been teaching lessons one-on-one over Zoom, which haven't been that bad. I was worried at first that it would be strange, and you missed the playing together aspect of it, which is really beneficial when you're teaching. But my students have adapted really well and have been successful anyway. So, it's not ideal, but we could still make it work.
So it's not ideal, I know. How do you think? Like, what are the drawbacks? Really, what are the drawbacks
of teaching synchronous online? Yeah. Well, the thing I struggle with the most is not being able to accompany them playing something, or not being able to play along with them. It's also frustrating. Like, my guitar student, I could like see his hands moving, and then the audio cuts out, and I'm like, okay, I gotta just pay really close attention to what he's doing there. First, he'll freeze. He'll hear, and then sometimes it just cuts out altogether. Like, a lot of that basic frustration will happen that obviously you don't experience when you're in the classroom. But as a musician, a lot of it is more about what you do on your own when you're not in front of your teacher. So I think the most important part of it is maintaining that relationship with your students to ensure that they know that you still care, that you're still interested, that you still want to help them grow, and that you're still giving them all of the support and encouragement necessary for them to be practicing on their own time, because I think our goal is to become obsolete eventually. So if I can give them as much as I possibly can so that they can get to the point where they don't need me anymore, then I think that's the job.
Yeah, I know. I've had my only experience with any kind of lessons has been very recent, and I started taking drum lessons with Todd Scheid, who you know, and so we had two lessons over Facebook, and I'm not afraid to make mistakes, and I'm not afraid to laugh at myself and really feel uncoordinated, even though I know I'm coordinated. But in the moment when I'm learning that very new thing, and the sticks are flying, and then I'm, like, hold on. And I'll just look at them and say, I get it. I'll do it on my own, and I'll see you next week. Because I'm getting it, but there's no point in me, what am I saying? Prolonging my own agony in the moment. So
that check-in with Todd probably makes you feel more eager to work throughout the week, so that you're So
Yeah,
that's the hope, I guess, while we wait for things to change.
and I think that's the case with a lot of, I know plenty of people who are giving, they weren't as easy for them. You know, they were all one-on-one, face-to-face lessons. And so to go to this, and I also know several musicians who were simply musicians performing who said, I have no work. Maybe I can give lessons online. And they did. I don't know how successful they were at that, because teaching is a very, very, very special thing. I have no other word for it. Yes. So I think I have no more questions coming up here. Wow. I thought we might have had a couple more follow up on some of this. Oh, David says prolonging my own agony is a good song title. Well, David, prolonging my own agony is pretty much the concept of every song I've ever written. Yes, kind of, just different words every single time. But yeah, thank you. You make me laugh on that. Okay. All right, so we're going to go into the heat of the summer. Most of these students are home. Do you think you'll be able to stay in touch with them for the next several months?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a work Instagram and through Twitter. So there's the email and Schoology. Yeah, there's a lot of avenues for us.
And you're reaching them all. You're reaching them in a good way, really good way. Yeah. And you're keeping yourself busy too, right? At home with just constantly playing. And I hear you've got the dog there too, and keeping you busy.
Yeah.
I forget what's her name?
Ella.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Ella. She want to get in the picture? No, I don't know. I don't care.
Probably jump up here at some point.
Yes, probably. Kristen says John Sanfilippo has been rocking online drum lessons with my daughter. Yeah, John Sanfilippo, Todd Scheid, they're both at California Drum Shop over here in West End of Bethlehem. And I don't mind giving them a little nod, because that's what we got to do right now. They're these folks are still looking to keep their businesses going and keep it happening. Same here. All right. Well, we're good. We've talked. I think have we exhausted the topic, or is there more?
I think there is more. I just don't know what it is yet, but I think that's the nature of.
All right. Well, we can come back to this. We can come back to this in a couple of months, but because things are changing every single day. Oh, that's the thing I was going to ask you. So the software that you're using now, do you think that it's fluid in that it's changing and adapting to what we're needing as the consumer, the user? And do you think it's going to continue to get to a point like they're watching what's happening in different sectors, like in the educational area? Do you think that they will?
Oh yeah, I'm certain. I filled out a survey just a couple of days ago regarding all of that. And yeah, I couldn't have done what I was able to do musically without it.
Right.
The synchronous part of it is really huge, especially when we're so seemingly disconnected. But the only struggle we have right now is the district has given me a full version, just like an educator's version of it. But the students are still operating on the free version, which still has a lot to offer. It's absolutely fantastic. No complaining here on that end. But obviously, the full version has even more with, especially with sequencers and drum machines, and it's really cool. It's a lot of fun.
That's great. I want to take your class. I want to get in on this
it's
stuff.
Fun to teach.
Yeah. Oh, I just spent the day making a promotional video for someone in Adobe Premiere, and the hardest part of it was getting the audio to the proper levels and the proper sound and to multi-tracking in there and getting them, because I don't know the program, from the ground up. I'm sort of going in there with all my other hack knowledge and just using it on a need to know basis. So, but the training that you have with this stuff, you are the kids learning it from from point A to Z, or are they just
I don't know yet.
okay?
I've always used GarageBand in my classroom.
Yeah.
So Soundtrap wasn't something I started using until I had to.
That's what I ended up having to do today, is to bounce over to GarageBand, record the voiceover, and then bring it in manually. So,
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Yeah, I think that that's definitely something that we're witnessing, is that the software companies are definitely adapting to what the user is needing in this particular time period. Cool. All right, Amy. It's always nice to see you.
You too.
So at the end of this thing, I always have to give a wait, go this way. We give a high five. That's backwards. That's hard.
Oh, you're over.
Yeah, do that left hand.
I got it.
Dang, it's that is the most uncoordinated thing we'll do all day. So instead, I'll just send you a kiss. Okay. Good to see you. All right, folks, my guest tonight has been Amy Putlock. She's a choral music teacher at Broughal Middle School at Bethlehem Area School District right here in my town. This is Flex, Adapt with Intent. And next week, we're going to talk with, let me double check on this calendar here. Who do I have coming up next week? I got so many good things coming up, but JP Jordan from Touchstone Theater. And that's in 2 weeks. I think I'm taking a week off. Okay. Maybe I'll go take a kayak out or something.
You deserve
All right.
it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon. Bye, everybody. And I'm going to play the outro.